You're spending 150K a year on copywriters, and it still sounds like it was written by someone who doesn't fully understand your business. Last quarter, I fired my entire copy team and let AI take over everything. In this video, I will walk you through exactly how I set it up, trained it to write in my voice, and how you can do the same thing this week so you can stop babysitting freelancers and actually focus on making money in your business. So now typically when we launch a product, there's multiple pieces of copies that we need to do. So it starts with positioning and hook for the product that we're going to sell. Then we move on to creating an opt-in page where people can opt in and sign up for the event. Then sales pages, not just a single one, but multiple sales pages where they can choose to buy one or multiple products. So typically when we do a product launch, we end up doing about 4 to 5 different sales pages. Then we need promotional emails that we can send to our list or affiliates can send to their list. We need webinar slides for when we're doing the launch event to showcase what the opportunity is, what the product does. We need outreach messages to talk to the affiliates, to talk to our partners. We need welcome emails as well, so that when someone does actually buy or they opt in, we reach out to them, let them know what they got access to, make sure they have all the details that they need. So all in all, this is quite a fair bit of work. And also, I don't know if you know this, but we do a product launch every single month. So when you're doing this repeatable thing every single month and every time it's a new product, what ends up happening is that you end up redoing a lot of work. So in the past, we've actually had 2 copywriters just doing this alone, just this part alone. And on top of that, we would have another writer who would do blog posts and help out with video scripts and all these things. So we have been able to now optimize and use AI for all of these things. And I'm going to show you how we did it and how you can do something like this for yourself as well. Now, of course, before you do anything, what you need to start with is your current process. So if you've done enough copy work in the past or whatever thing it is you're doing, then you can start to train AI on that. So what that would mean is you go back to your Google Documents or wherever it is you're storing all your copy, and you collect essentially all the materials that you need so that you can train Claude or you can train ChatGPT or whatever it is you're using. I'm going to use Claude, so I'm going to show you that, but you can use whatever platform that you want. But again, to begin with, you need to give context, because without context, Claude wouldn't know where to point you to. And let me also say this. Yes, out of the gate, you can use a ton of different Claude skills or custom GPTs or whatever you want to create copy, but that's never going to sound like you. So there's 2 things you can do. One, if you have actually created and launched product before, if you have done services for which you have copy and you want to emulate that, then collect all of that and put that into one form. Number 2, if you haven't done this before, if you haven't launched products, if you haven't launched services, and this is the first time you're trying to do, then you need to go out there, find successful examples of products or services that have been launched and have converted well. Now, how do you typically do that? Well, for that, you can go to various different networks, affiliate networks, where you can see conversion rates, where you can see EPCs and all those things, and figure out what worked and what didn't work. So that's exactly what we did. We went over to JVZoo, and when we went to JVZoo, right over here, you can look at find products, and this will tell you all the unique products that are launching on the marketplace at any given time. And when you find those, you can scroll through them and you can figure out which ones have good conversion rates, which one have good EPCs, and you can look at exactly how they're structuring their sales pages. So for example, I'll show you one of them that I have seen and I know it works exceptionally well. So a friend of mine launched this product called Instantly Claude Premium and Bundle, and I know that's a really solid product. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on Get Link, and I'm going to grab this link and go over to this sales page. Then, because I know what this product is and what it does, so I have some prior knowledge being in the market, I'm also going to find the affiliate page for this product. This affiliate page typically gives me everything that I need, right? So we talked about positioning and hook. I can use AI to extract those out of the sales page if I can't make them out immediately. And again, I'm going to show you step by step how to do all of that. Then opt-in pages, and again, because I know this person, I know what he did, so I can find out their opt-in page as well, and I can utilize this. And then I can go ahead and figure out their sales pages too. So again, this is one of them, and again, I have gone through this funnel, so I know what they are. If you haven't, you can simply use this little hack where you can take the URL, go to Google, and type this site, and this will show you all the pages that are under this domain, right? So you can check out all the different pages that they have. And then this way you can find the promotion emails too. So if I go back to the JV link, go to JV doc, and you will see swipes and tools, and they've got all the emails here that they recommend you to use. So this is like the entire email sequence all in one massive document. Then similarly, I can find the webinar slides. I can look on the premium page, on the bundle page where I know this webinar exists. Right over here, I can see exactly what kind of slides they have used as well. Again, a bit of manual work here, but nothing that you can't do. So you get that as well. And then on top of that, you can get similarly the outreach messages, you can get welcome emails. And again, I have the luxury of being in the market, so I can easily extract that information. But even if you're not, all you have to do is a little bit of research. You can even ask Claude to find you these pages. It may not be able to find everything that you need, but it will be able to find you a lot. But again, this is an important point. I want you to have a base framework from where you can leap off of, right? So if you've never done this before, if you make the crucial mistake of trying to reverse engineer all of this without any proven successful examples, you're going to fall flat because Claude will give you generic advice. ChatGPT will give you generic advice. So instead, what you need to do is you need to feed in data that you know has worked in the past. And again, this is the part that you're going to find boring. You're going to feel like, Neil, I don't want to extract all these sales pages. I just want to be able to put the URLs in and Claude or ChatGPT can do all that. Well, the good news is it actually can do all that for you as well. But if you have everything in a document format somewhere, then you can use it for posterity in the future as well. So that's what I would recommend you to do. But again, it's entirely up to you what you want to do. Now, having said that, I'm going to show you exactly what happens once you have collected all this information. So let's jump on over to Claude and I'll show you what to do with this. By the way, very quickly, as I'm building all this out, I'm going to be turning all these into skill files that I and my team use all the time to create these things really quickly. If you're interested in getting access to those, make sure you join our community where I reveal this and a lot of other information that can help you automate key parts of your business. So go join the AI Revenue Engine community. But in the meantime, let's go over to Claude and I'm going to show you what you do next. So there's a couple of different approaches you can take to this. I'm going to explain both of them to you and I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each. The first approach is creating a new project in Claude. And again, you can use ChatGPT as well. I'm going to singularly focus on Claude because I find it to be far more intelligent and far more useful for what I'm trying to do. Because once I have these skills done, I can pretty much automate all these things on autopilot. So it can go through and create all of these things for me one by one. All I have to do is approve and say, this is good and that's what I want. And it will generate everything for me in a matter of hours. So the first thing you can do is create a new Claude project just to keep it simple. And in this project, you upload all the sources that you have. So for example, let's say if I was to call this Launch OS. In this project, you can come in and upload all the files. All the files in this case would be, for example, the swipes. It would be the JV document. It would be their sales pages. It would be anything that you find useful so that you can reverse engineer what's working for others. That has an interesting point. You cannot do this just with a single sales copy or a single launch. You have to feed in as much information as you can because the more information you give, the better it will be at finding patterns and reverse engineering for you what works and what doesn't work. The mistake that a lot of people make is simply giving one set of information and expecting that now it's going to give you great output every single time. That doesn't happen. You need to at least feed it 3 types of a sales page so it can deduce what works and then create something similar for you in the future. So back to this, all you have to do is upload all the files that you have in here and then you're able to ask it to reverse engineer various different things. But again, this is a bit long and laborious and I would not advise you to do this. Instead, here's what I need you to do. So when you get to your Claude desktop application, whether that's for PC or Mac, it doesn't really matter. You have 3 places to start. You can start with chat, which is quite similar to what you do on the web. So you can again make projects, you can query, you can ask questions, or you go to code, which I typically reserve for more advanced things such as actual coding, like programming, or you can use Cowork. And Cowork is what we're going to focus on in this case, because it's going to allow you to use a folder to compress all the information and reverse engineer what works, what doesn't work, and then utilize it to create repeatable frameworks that you can use in the future. So once you have collected all the files, all you need to do is choose the folder where the files exist. So for example, in my case, we've got this folder over here, which is Launch OS Experiment, and all the files are now in here. What I can then do is I can ask it to start understanding what's in the folder. But I'm not only going to ask it to understand, but I'm going to ask it to reverse engineer what works and what doesn't work. So let me go ahead and show you an example of what this looks like in practice. So check this out. Review the files in the folder. I'm showing examples of successful sales pages. Based on that, could you deduce what positioning and hooks typically work? And based on that, create a skills file for positioning and hook framework that I can repeat and reuse all the time. By doing this, what you're essentially doing is you're instructing AI to figure out patterns which humans might typically miss. And again, this is what AI is good for. It's good for doing the grunt work for you. So once you have all these things deduced, you don't have to do it by hand anymore. And what it's going to now do is it's going to read the sales page, it's going to reverse engineer what works, what doesn't work. You can see all the different samples that we have over here, and then it's going to tell you this is the typical hook and positioning framework that works for these sales pages. So this is how I think you should approach it in the future. And again, this is important because once you establish this, any future work to create positioning and hooks becomes easy. And then again, you keep doing the same thing over and over again for opt-in pages, for sales pages, for emails, for JV pages, for webinar slides, and anything you need to do for your own product or service launch framework. But look, I'd also be lying if I said this is a set and forget system, because once you do set it up, once you do have those skills file, it's a good idea to go back and update them, say once a month, because a lot of things change. You know, in a market as dynamic as ours, where you're focusing on selling, where you have to create good direct response copy, copy changes all the time, trends change all the time. So it's a good idea to keep feeding in copies are actually working now and asking it to improve the skills file, adapt it based on what's profitable at the moment. So this is something that we do every single month. We simply take what works, we feed that back into the system and ask it to re-engineer the skills file over and over again. So as you can see, this is what it's doing right now. It has read all the files, everything that's in the folder, and now it is building a skills file to map this. Now, once you do this, I'm going to show you the example of what the outcome looks like. So for example, this is a positioning framework that's been created for me in the past based on 8 different sales pages that we fed in. Or this is the email swipe framework that has been created for me as well. And I want to show you a couple of others. This is the funnel architecture framework that's been created. That is, what should a funnel typically look like? So it actually builds out the entire thing for you. So it tells you this is how your product should be priced. Or if you want to write front-end sales pages, it tells you basically this is how a sales page should be structured. Same way with the upsells and same way with the JV page as well. So just by doing this, you're able to build out repeatable things for yourself that you can execute. And I want to now show you what happens when you put this into action. So typically, like I mentioned before, we had 2 people working on this around the clock, doing copy work for everything that we would do for a product launch, and we would typically launch once a month. Again, these people were happy because they had full-time jobs, but now we can take this entire thing and run it through the frameworks one by one, and it's able to build everything out for us in under 4 hours. And again, this is with a human in the loop. What that means is that I'm always there or someone else is always there to make sure that the inputs are correct, that the outputs line up with our expectations, and it works the way we want. So we've been able to compress about 320 hours of work into 4 hours just by doing this. And because of that, we've been able to compress the costs that we were spending on these copywriters and executors before now just into a $20 a month plan on Claude. And you can see in real time, Claude has now created this multiple hooks for me as well. And as you can now see, Claude has created this multiple skills file for me that I can now utilize too. But just so you know, I'll show you an example of what this would look like if I was using this for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new task, and I'm going to load the folder which has these files in it. And then I'm going to explain to it what it is I'm trying to sell, and it's going to create these positioning and hooks framework for me. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. So this is one of our upcoming product, AI Closer, and I'm just going to give it a simple task. I want to launch AI Closer. This is what it does, and I want you to create hooks and positioning for this product. And it's going to review all the files that are in this folder. It's going to look at everything that we have as context, and it's going to build out hooks and positioning based on this. There we go. I just asked it to use the framework inside the folder and it checked out everything. And now it's going to use the ultimate positioning framework to build out hooks and positioning for this. So I'm going to just show you what the example of this is and how it is strikingly better than anything I could have produced in as much time. So there you go. It's finished the entire process. You can see everything that it did over here. And you can see the summary as well. And then I'm going to open up the document and show you what this looks like. So let's go all the way to the top. And again, this is very, very detailed. But you can see the core positioning analysis. So 7 element breakdown, which is the unique mechanism, which is a deep close system. Honestly, we hadn't thought of branding it like that, so that's quite fantastic already. Then you've got the transformation promise from cold prospect list all the way to hot leads. So we've got that down as well. Then speed claim, removal barriers, proof anchor. So it's got all these things. Then formula selection is recommending what works, what doesn't. And again, all this it was able to do automatically while I just sat here waiting for it to finish, doing other things and just focusing instead of my business. And again, you can do the same as well. All you have to do is follow the process where you feed in some data, you give it some prompts to explain to it what you're after, and it will give you something that is repeatable. And again, all this with a human in loop now takes 4 hours for every single product launch that we do. So with this now, you've got a way to handle all your copy without a team, which should free up a chunk of your time and budget. But copy is just one piece of the puzzle. You're still paying developers to build and maintain the stuff that the copy actually sells. I solved that too with just one AI tool, and I'll walk you through the tutorial of how you can do this for yourself as well.